Okay, now let's get into first and 10, the UFC Fight Night recap of Curtis Blaydes and Alexander Volkov. Now this was an exciting fight night and I always say that UFC, all their cards are exciting. So if you guys are not ESPN Plus, we're gonna do this again. ESPN Plus, your boy is throwing you out there. You ain't paying your boy. Hook your boy up with a deal. I put a sticker up here on the whiteboard right behind me, so those that are watching on YouTube could see it. Get your boy a deal. Let's make this happen. We playing around now. But anyways, going back to UFC, we are, or at least I am. I'm excited for the rest of the year when it comes to UFC, especially UFC 251 on Fight Island. But UFC has been putting out great cards, and for those of you that have been missing it, you've been missing out on some great fights. And especially in the sports world where there hasn't been much live sports, there hasn't been much sports in general due to COVID-19. The UFC has been able to get by that and put some good rules in place. Take fighter safety very seriously, and honestly, they have been able to throw events with no fans, and there has been no effect, at least on the viewer side. When I watch these fights, no fans in there. It's not really one of those issues. It's not something I notice when I'm watching the fight. Like, oh man, it's quiet. Now you might hear more, which is you can hear hard hits, but it's not like, oh man, I missed the fans on the side. Now, the fans are cool to have them there and hear people like cheer and everything, and the fighters try to interact with them, but it's not a make or break for the UFC fights. Again, the fights are great, even with or without fans. But let's go ahead and get into this card. So the first one, Jim Miller versus Roosevelt Roberts. Man, I was completely wrong on this one. Roosevelt Roberts was a pretty big favorite on this one. Not pretty big. He was a favorite on this one, minus 230, I believe. And we talked about this last week with the odds and everything. But Roosevelt Roberts, I had him winning this one pretty decisively. Unfortunately, if you watch the fight, now, spoiler alert, let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. If you haven't watched this, I am going to be giving up the results for these fights. So go ahead, switch off or skip to the next segment, to our second down segment. But Roosevelt Roberts was a little disappointing during this fight. It ended in the first round. There was that. So the beginning of the end for him was really when it looked like he threw a kick and he tripped. Or Jim Miller threw a perfect kick as soon as Roosevelt Roberts kicked him, which made Roosevelt Roberts fall to the ground. And then from that point on, it was over, because as soon as he fell to the ground, he just didn't get back up, or he was pretty much getting controlled on the ground. And near the end, he was on his feet, but Jim Miller did have the arm bar kind of locked in, and that's how it ended. It was the arm bar in first round. I think it was like the first 2 minutes of the fight, or first 2-3 minutes of the fight. So great win for Jim Miller. Roosevelt Roberts taking his second fight in 3 weeks. I mean, that's a tough loss. I mean, again, he's fighting. This is his second fight in 3 weeks, so it's pretty demanding with a quick turnaround fight like that. But he's looking to make a name for himself, and he took a risk. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off this time. Again, big win for Jim Miller. Whoever put down money on him and his plus probably 300 had a great night. So, I mean, I can't say anything more, but great fight, great win for Jim Miller. I don't think anyone really had him winning that fight, especially I know I didn't. Belal Muhammad versus Lyman Good. Now this one was solid. I mean, it went the distance, but Lyman Good, he was the first UFC fighter that tested positive for COVID-19. This was one of the reasons why this specific fight fell through during UFC 249, when it was originally supposed to take place, because he tested positive for COVID-19. Also, recently, prior to this fight, Good lost his father. So obviously, it's hard to say it's not an excuse, but it's just one of those things where, whenever you lose a family member, especially a parent, and I can't talk I can't say it by experience, but I can only imagine going into a fight where, you lose a parent and you still have to, perform at a high level it's tough. So much respect for Good, and sending prayers to his family for their loss. I mean, again, it's a tough one. I'm sure he was fighting to honor his father in the ring, and it just didn't go out well. So again, Good gave everything he had. It just wasn't enough, but I think he had a great surge in the third round, but it just wasn't enough. He had a slow start. He was down on the cards. Third round, he picked it up. If he was able to do that, maybe in the second round and keep it going in the third round, he would have won the fight. But it was just too little, too late for him. So Belal got the win, and now he's asking for a top 10 opponent, rightfully so. I mean, this is his third win in a row. And I'm glad that he was able to get that opportunity and fight through adversity, especially after a third round like that, where it was definitely tested his perseverance in the third round. So solid fight, but we'll see what he does in the welterweight division. Again, he's asking for a top 10 opponent. We'll see how that goes. Raquel Pennington versus Marion Reneau. So this one I talked about last week, saying that it had the potential to be fight of the night. And I said it had potential. I didn't say it was going to be fight of the night. I said it had the potential to be fight of the night. I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, it was just a one-sided fight. Raquel Pennington pretty much, took Marion to task and beat her up pretty well during the fight. Went the distance. I had Raquel Pennington winning all 3 rounds. Only one other judge had it 3 rounds for Pennington. The other 2 had it 2-1. I had it 3 rounds-0, but I thought it was a one-sided fight. Again, Pennington is looking to keep winning, making some noise, at least as much noise as she can in the bantamweight division for the women's title. Again, that's a tall. That might be the tallest mountain to climb in the UFC if you want to be a champion in that weight division, especially in that women's division. So Pennington, again, she's making as much noise as she can. It was a good win for her, and hopefully this sparks that momentum to where she could go climb her way back up to be a contender in that division. Now, John Emmett versus Shane Burgos. Now, this one I said last week, I'm proud of this, that is likely to be fight of the night. Likely. And now I think everybody knew that when they were looking at this card. They were saying that this fight had the potential to be, or likely would be, the fight of the night. I stated that last week, and I mean, it was nothing short of spectacular. If you watched any fight during this card, make sure if you missed this one, make sure you go back. If you're going to just watch one fight from this card, make sure you watch this fight. It was action-packed. I mean, if you like a stand-up fight, this is the one to watch. Emirate was the underdog in this fight, but you essentially had 2 guys in the cage that were good fighters. They're dogs, and neither of them wanted to lose. They had that determination to win, even though again, this is a tough fight between 2 good fighters. Emirate started off slow and in the first round, and you can contribute that, or you can say that's due to his a leg issue that it looked like he had in the first round. After the fight, he did mention that he believes that he blew his ACL in the first round, which is tough. Again, if you're gonna finish off 3 the 3 rounds basically with a blown ACL, I mean, it doesn't get any tougher than that, especially when people are when he's getting kicked in the leg by Shane Burgos. I mean, again, it was a rough start for Emmett. He did tell his corner after the first round that he messed up his leg pretty bad. So he was definitely aware, and so was his corner, of the injury that occurred. I'm sure he knew that it was an ACL. Once you blow your ACL, most of the time you know what it is because it's just very unstable. But Emmett, he was able to come back like a champion in the second and third round. Again, the first round, very timid, especially with the leg injury. He was trying to keep his distance. He's trying to feel out the leg, see where it was at. But second and third round, man, he was just letting it go. Hit Shane Burgos with some big shots Burgos has a good chin, but he needs to fix that defense. I mean, he leaves his chin out there, and he's getting hit. You know, you get hit enough like that, and you're gonna fall. I mean, he got dropped a few times, and man, dude is tough. Both these guys are tough guys. Exciting fight. You know, I definitely want to see both of these guys again. But man, this one again, it was just two guys that were just willing to, to do anything to win. And these were close rounds. It wasn't like Emmett, Josh Emmett just stole, the second round or third round. Now, Emmett, he did definitely win the third round by far, easily, decisively in the third round. The second round was more of a toss up. I think the judges gave it to Emmett just because he was able to land some big shots near the end of the round. Got Shane Burgos on the ground, so again that was helpful for him. But this was not a one-sided fight. This one was, I thought that Josh Emmett was going to lose after round one. I was like, oh, he's definitely going down. And again, he showed that determination to say, I'm not losing, and I'm not going to accept failure. I'm not going to accept defeat. So, big up to him. He was very vocal after the fight, stating that he wants a top 5 fighter moving forward. He's tired of being he doesn't want to be a gatekeeper, and he's willing to climb up the ranks so he can get his title shot. So, but unfortunately, again, with the ACL injury, I'm not sure if that's been diagnosed. If you got an MRI, I'm sure he did. But if it is truly an ACL injury, then obviously he's gonna have to sit out, likely 6-7 months after surgery. So he has a physical therapy process in front of him that he needs to do before he even comes back to fight somebody top 5. And I'm sure when he gets back, he's going to be asking for a top 5 guy. But if he's going to be out for 6-7 months, he might need a tune-up fight before he does something like that. So that's a tough situation, but I'm sure he's a fighter. He's a tough guy. Like I said, I'm sure he's going to come back and say, I don't want a tune-up fight. I just want a top 5, because you get a tune-up fight and you lose, then you won't get top 5 fight. Trust me. Then lastly, that was the co-main event. So the main event, Curtis Blaydes versus Alexander Volkov. Again, Volkov is a dangerous fighter, very lengthy, and it would have. I mean, if they stood on their feet, it would have presented some issues for Curtis Blaydes. But this fight was pretty much not competitive for the first 3 rounds, just for the simple fact that Volkov was literally on his back for the first 3 rounds the whole time. I mean, he just couldn't get up off of the ground. Curtis Blaydes' wrestling was just impeccable in the first 3 rounds, got him on the ground, kept him on the ground against his will, and won those first 3 rounds pretty much easily. So unless he did anything like wrong or just running for the rounds 4 and 5, he pretty much had the fight won in the first 3 rounds. So, or he got knocked out. The 4th, 5th round, he was gassed for sure. Especially, he was going after takedowns. He set the record for most takedowns in a heavyweight fight. I can't remember what number of the amount of takedowns he got, but it was he definitely set a record for attempts and actual takedowns in a heavyweight fight. And Volkov will tell you that he'll tell you that he set a record because he kept getting put on his back. His back was against the canvas for most of the fight. But again, Blaydes got gassed in the 4th, 5th round. He got hit with some big shots, and he was doing everything he could to take the fight to the ground and kind of catch his breath and preserve energy, at least whatever he had left. Herb Dean had to separate them a couple times because Curtis Blaydes was on top and just wasn't making actions to progress or do some damage. So Herb Dean, as I like to call him, but Herb Dean, he is the best ref in UFC, and obviously he's not just going to break something up just because. I mean, he's very experienced and sees these things and is willing to diagnose it properly. So Herb Dean did a good job there. Curtis Blaydes, I mean, what do you do next for him? I mean, what else is there for Curtis Blaydes? Obviously, a title fight. I mean, there's 2 options for him. He could fight the winner of Daniel Cormier and Stipe, which I believe that Francis Ngannou would want that fight, whoever the winner of that fight is. Or Curtis Blaydes could do his rematch versus Francis Ngannou to kind of redeem himself from getting knocked out by Francis in their previous fight. I believe it was back in 2018. So Curtis Blaydes definitely has some options, or at least, I mean, he's kind of stuck in no man's land just because I'm sure Francis Ngannou was waiting for the winner of the Cormier-Stipe fight. And I'm sure, Blaydes would want that fight, or he would want a rematch with Francis, but, it wouldn't make sense for Francis to put that at risk when he could just, fight for a title and call the winner of that fight. So Curtis Blaydes in an interesting position. I'm sure that he's willing to fight anyone. Probably take another fight until, Francis Ngannou gets a chance to fight the winner of Stipe Cormier. And maybe if Cormier wins, he retires. And then you have like an interim fight between Francis and Stipe or Francis and Blaydes. I mean, there's a lot of options in the heavyweight division. And obviously it weighs a lot on who wins the Stipe Cormier fight, because Cormier is definitely thinking about retiring after that. So that's UFC. Make sure you guys don't miss another one. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more fire sports takes. And for those of you who are on the go, make sure you subscribe to our full show, which airs every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch more. Until then, I'm chucking it up, and I'll see you guys next time.